Hello everyone and welcome to this hopefully short video on your papers. Now, as you know, you have decided to have two papers due by the end of the semester rather than take any exams or do any other small assignments. So these two papers are very big deals. They are what's going to get you your grade in this class. And so, yeah, it's possible for everybody to get an A. It's also possible for everybody to get a C. So let's try to avoid that one. So in your first paper, I gave you an assignment to track a concept or idea that we could see develop or change or even stay the same, between or across three or more time periods by picking theorists from those different sort of time periods. And the idea behind this was to show you that there are trends in rhetoric that have not changed, and there are some that have. Most of that change occurs actually in the second half of our timeline. So we're actually going to do something a little bit different with paper two. Paper one has very clear directions, right? You pick and choose and you write the paper. Not that hard. But for the second paper, it's a little bit more vague. What you need to do is start with a concept or idea from now. So hopefully it's not something like that has gone completely out of vogue, like talking about memoria, right? That's just not something we talk about anymore. Maybe we should, but we don't. Or what color toga we're supposed to wear when we speak, or anything like that. That's kind of completely gone out of vogue. Even the study of nonverbal communication has really evolved from what it used to be from elocutionary classes. So we need to pick something that exists right now, is a question right now that, is something that we might refer to in today's world. My example for this is always ethos. Ethos is something that just has lived with us as part of speaking for a very long time, since, the first writings of rhetoric and prior to that. Socrates and Plato both talked about the need for credibility, for good character, and for competence in a speaker. That does not change, but what it does is it gets interpreted in different ways, and its importance is weighed differently over the time periods. And so, what I want from you is to take that concept, in this case, ethos as our example, and trace it backwards all the way as far back as you can. Now, that does not mean that I have to hit every single theorist along the way. That would be a dissertation. Instead, I want you to pick and choose where you think it's most important that we know what ethos does, or where it comes from, or what it's doing, or how somebody might have changed it. Example: if I talk about ethos and I say, to me, excuse me, it still retains its original its original definition of credibility, meaning it's made up of both character and of competence, then that means that I'm probably going to go back to, I'm definitely going to hit Toulmin talking about argument, because in there he does not talk about the importance of credibility as part of the argument like Aristotle does. Instead, he talks about argument separately from the way that he talks about, or if he even addresses ethos. That idea of ethos is still necessary, even if you have the best argument possible, okay? Because it shows competence. So you have to also show that you have goodwill towards the audience. So I definitely pick Toulmin out. As I work my way backwards, I would probably pick out one of the theorists that talks about language, either John Locke or Bacon, to talk about the fact that language can be utilized, maybe even I.A. Richards, talk about how language is abstract, and we have to trust that what our audience is hearing is what we intend. And we have to trust as audience members that our speakers are going to adhere to the generally accepted sort of connotations and denotations of meaning in order for us to understand what they're saying. A really good example of this is when I listen to Donald Trump speak and he says, "This is tremendous." I have to greatly wonder what that means to him, because to me, tremendous means it's extremely good, it's at the top. And sometimes he's talking about size or volume or something completely different. And in that sense, language can reflect the relationship between the audience and the speaker, which comes down to, for me, credibility. Another group that I would address is I would probably take St. Augustine and Peter Ramus and talk about how the credibility of the speaker was challenged during this time. And Ramus sort of said, here's what we're supposed to do because God gave us these two gifts of speech and reason, and we're supposed to divide those up. Whereas St. Augustine said, God gave us this power of persuasion, and if the devil uses it, we should use it too to help the church. So I'd probably hit that. Part of that, I'm definitely going to hit Quintilian. Excuse me, I've got allergies. I'm definitely going to hit Quintilian because he includes the idea of an ethical speaker in his definition of a perfect orator. And then I'm going to go back to at least Aristotle, probably there. Now, I have named, I believe, 7 theorists. Obviously, I'm not going to be writing pages on each one of these, but I'm going to touch on them more or less as I go. Now, if you have 7 theorists, that's probably automatically 7 pages, which is why this assignment, I believe I have it listed as 8 to 15, but I'm not really sure that that is the exact page limit. So look on the assignment on Blackboard. It may be actually like 5 to 15, but I think it's actually 7 to 15 because I do fundamentally believe that it's hard to write this type of paper without going to at least 7 or 8 pages, okay? Now, that doesn't mean that longer is better, ever. Never means that, just like I said with the first paper. This paper will be graded the same way the last one would be, which is with the rubric that I have provided. So you'll notice on that rubric, I talk about style and format and content, okay? I need you to do all 3, honestly, because writing is a form of rhetoric. It's the written form of rhetoric, which is why we have a really good group of classes over in the English department that are about writing argument. They fall under the term of rhetoric as well, because rhetoric is something that is utilized or is approached or is an ontology or whatever word you want to use in both written and in oral. And in the 1960s, when communication departments separated from English departments, they became speech departments is what they were, and then we switched it to communication. We did not absorb that writing part. We just took the speech part with us. So, some of these theorists that we read are really talking more about writing, but not necessarily. But you need to practice good rhetoric when you're writing your paper. And what you're trying to do is to demonstrate to me that you understand how a concept either developed or changed or stayed the same throughout in the major trends of rhetoric throughout the past 2,400 years. Now, excuse me, if you are going to work with something like feminism, that might be a little harder to trace really far back, but trace it back as far as you think it should go. Okay, so if you have a newer concept like critical theory, that's something that you're probably going to have to attempt to trace back as far as you can, but it's probably not going to be as far back as some of the more traditional, or should I say, not traditional, some of the concepts and ideas that come out of classical ancient rhetoric. All right. So yes, I will be grading your style, which is APA. I will be grading that you met the minimum requirements of the paper, and I will be grading you on your content, that it's accurate. And by that, I just mean that it makes sense within the context of what we know about those theorists. Excuse me. It's hard to be wrong here because you're probably taking the information from these theorists themselves. So you don't need to worry about like right and wrong so much as demonstrating to me that you understand how these trends moved throughout the ages. And I have you start now and work your way backwards, because in the first paper, we really started at the beginning and worked our way forward. And in order to understand rhetoric, you kind of need to know it forward and backwards. See what I did there? Okay. Sort of a play on words, yes, but still, the idea is the same. The concept that I can tell you right now where something came from, where a concept in rhetoric came from. And I could also tell you where Aristotle's concepts have ended up now. But you need to be able to do that just with one or two concepts, not all of them. I'm expected to do all of them, but that's what a PhD is for. A master's degree, hopefully you just get a good idea, okay, of what that this area of the field looks like. So that's your job. That's what you're supposed to do. I just realized I don't think that this video is very helpful, but put your questions up on Blackboard and I will answer them. A lot of times I go and I check it and there's nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. And then I go one day after it's been like 2 weeks or something, there's like 15 questions. It's like, oh, Dudash was not paying attention. So I appreciate those of you who have texted me and said, hey, we need an answer to a question, or can you clarify something for me? I will definitely do those things. But obviously, with the end of the semester rolling in as quickly as it is, I will be checking Blackboard probably every day. I mean, before it was just like a couple times a week, but I'll probably be checking it every day from now on. Not over Thanksgiving, but from now on until the end of the semester, because things are about to get super, super, super busy for college professors and for you. So I have some sympathy for that. I have some empathy for that. We are 1 month, almost exactly 1 month out from the end of the semester. So plan well, okay? And I'll be talking to you all soon. Hopefully this helps a little bit. This gives you some ideas. If not, feel free to call me. We can do a Zoom session with, one-on-one, or we could do several of you if we can find a time where it works for all of us. Whatever you guys want to do, and gals, we'll do it. Okay? Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.